Welcome to the Life with a Difference podcast, a platform to amplify the voices of those living with a visible difference. It is so hot here. I know for Tennessee it's probably quite cold, but it's like 30 degrees, which to us is crazy. We're all dying.
It was pretty warm yesterday, so yeah, I guess I'm not sure what it is like today. We got a bit of a cloudier day today, but it was pretty warm yesterday.
Yeah. How hot does it get in Tennessee?
Well, ours is in Fahrenheit, so I don't know how it translates to
Oh yeah, I don't
Celsius.
know. Yeah, I'm not sure. I know 100 is very hot.
Yeah,
That's all I
it is.
remember.
It is.
Okay, to start, do you mind introducing yourself and explaining about your visible difference, please?
Sure. Hi, I'm Jade. I am both a business English teacher as well as a language and mindset coach for job seekers in the gaming industry. I love to help people understand kind of the language that they use to stand out in the job market and to just communicate on a deeper level. My physical difference is I was born with a hemangioma on my face, which is a large birthmark on my nose and lip. And I've had about 11 surgeries to reconstruct my face and remove it. And basically, my physical difference still is that I have one nostril smaller than the other and some scarring on my lip. And so my face still looks a little off, but it's not as jarring as it was when I was little.
And thank you for that. And how have you found your journey? Kind of where are you at the moment within your journey, would you say? Are you kind of in a place where you feel that, reasonable sense of confidence and calm, or would you say there's maybe some hang up still from the difficulty of growing up with a visible difference?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I've finally come to a place that, it is what it is. I was actually just saying into the mirror, this is what you get. We've gotten to the point where, you know, if you can afford it, yeah, you can change your appearance. But at the end of the day, right now, this is it. And
Mm.
you're either happy with it or you don't, or you're not. And either way, that's my face. So it's like, I'm at peace with it. I'm at peace with it.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. It's funny how people are in such different places.
Yeah.
Some people have seemed to have got it figured out, and some people, understandably, are still struggling. And I'm kind of somewhere in between those two, I would say. I think there was kind of a moment in your life where you felt yourself coming to terms with things or becoming more comfortable. Was it a slow, steady journey?
I would say it was slower. I don't remember an exact moment. I'm on medication, so that has allowed me to come to a better place mentally than I would have
Hmm.
been before, and I'm sure that has aided my recovery, essentially, because I've dealt with depression and OCD for many years.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I would say, I was somebody that honestly was kind of hypocritical growing up, where, I didn't feel different, but I didn't want to hang out with people that looked different or acted different. And so I think in order to recognize that, you know, now it wasn't the best mindset and I need to be better, I kind of realized that I need to appreciate people and come to neutrality with them and want to be around them, and otherwise I also need to come to a sense of neutrality with myself. And so
Hmm.
I think you also, once you learn to appreciate, you start to see the beauty in that as well. So
Hmm.
it's a it was slow because it came from wanting to be a better person and wanting to just not, I think, be knowing that there really, for me, wasn't anything that I can do about my face. This is what I have, and learning to accept it, and then learning to accept others as well to be a better
Hmm.
person.
Hmm. I relate to that so much, honestly. Yeah, I'm kind of glad you said that. I felt the same thing where you feel so vulnerable, particularly at school, don't you? When you are so vulnerable and you have something that makes you such a target that you want to do everything you can to go up the social ladder, don't you? And so you don't want to do anything that would put you at more risk. And so, and you're almost rejecting who you are in a way. And so, yeah, you don't want to be seen with other people that with a visible difference because you kind of want to reject that. Yeah, I totally get that. Would you say that school was quite hard for you, or what would you say your experience was?
Yes, it was definitely difficult for me. I did not really fit in. I didn't, interesting. I didn't see myself as different, but I also was not accepted at that point because of my physical difference. Um, I I just wanted to have fun. I wanted to play soccer with the other kids, and I so when I would line up on the fence and I would wait to get picked, nobody would pick me, and then the game would just start without me. That's what I remember happening. And so it was they just didn't want to really, because this is actually a picture of me. I kind of wanted to show this. That's how I looked when I
Okay.
was little.
Mhm.
And so it
Mhm.
was very large, and it was very jarring for a lot of kids. And
Mhm.
I had a tough time. I had some experiences that showed kids just did not really respond to me. And as a
Mhm.
girl, I actually got along or felt more comfortable around boys than I did around other
Mhm.
girls.
Mhm.
And then it became kind of difficult for me overall that I ended up being homeschooled after third grade.
Was that because was that your decision because you felt that you were finding school so difficult? Or was that kind of a mixed decision between you and your parents?
Yeah, it was more of a mixed decision. I think they could see that I wasn't really fitting in. I was starting to lose my love of school because I actually did enjoy learning.
Mhm.
And when third grade came, um, I had a teacher that was a little bit more stricter, and it was starting to become more challenging. And I was losing what made education fun. And then I also didn't fit in. So you have that combination, and it's like, there really wasn't anything enjoyable to go to anymore. And so my
Mhm.
family could see that I wasn't fitting in, and so my mom decided to homeschool me after that. Yeah.
Mhm. And I think there's kind of an attitude against homeschooling that I don't think's often entirely balanced. I think sometimes it's seen as just this 100% negative thing, and I just don't think that's the case. I think there's plenty of situations where it is the best. You know, we all want kids to grow up with a level of resilience and to be around other kids as much as possible, ideally. But there's certain situations where that's just not the case, and unfortunately, the negatives outweigh the positives. And so I'd say, I don't know if you'd agree with this, but I think if you're a carer and you're kind of in two minds and you're kind of torturing yourself as to whether that's the right decision or not, I personally think there is a time when it is the right thing to do. Would you agree with the decision that was made to homeschool you?
I'm yes and no.
Mhm.
So, yes, in the sense that I learned to continue to enjoy learning,
Mhm.
because my mom would choose texts and but that were interesting to me. So I was
Mhm.
appealed to, but I was still getting the work done that I needed to.
Mhm.
We also went all year round because I liked education and I didn't mind doing it all year. So she adapted to me, and that was really great. So as far as my
Mhm.
education, that did not suffer. If anything, I
Mhm.
probably did much better because I got to do a lot of things that I wanted to do and use texts that appealed to me.
Mhm.
The negative side of it was that I still did not have any friends, and our family was not close and still is not. And I've had some difficulties with my mom over the years. So the emotional part of it, um, and the familial part of it was challenging. But the educational part of it benefited. So yes and no.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, when I look back at school, it does often feel like a bit of a holding pen and like just kind of kids club sometimes. And I think about what you actually came out with at the end of each day, what you'd learned. And I don't think it was that great, to be honest with you. I think that, yeah, unfortunately you get to an age where there's just not that much learning going on. And so I do think if you've got that environment, I'm sure you could most definitely learn a bit more. So would you say this kind of sounds like a bit of a harsh thing, I suppose, but would you say the school system kind of failed you and didn't give you the concessions that you needed and didn't give you the help that you needed with your condition?
Hmm. That's a tough question because I think for, you know, through second grade, the teachers are nice to me. I didn't really have a problem. And the third grade teacher was probably fine. I was very sensitive. So anybody that was a little bit more stricter,
Mhm.
bothered me. Um, I think they tried. You can't make kids like other kids.
Yeah.
So I don't really think there was much they could have done just because mine was a physical difference and not a disability in the conventional
Mhm.
sense. So I don't think there really was much they could have done. I think in general, probably education needed to be different, but that would be a whole different structure. So
Mhm.
no, I got out before it was going to really show the cracks in it.
Mhm.
That's what I
Mhm.
feel.
Okay. Quite a tough question, I guess, but sort of in hindsight, looking back, I guess if you were one of those teachers in that situation, seeing a student like you, what would you do differently? Is there anything that is there any basically is there any advice you could give to teachers that are in that position in the kind of a good way to handle that, and obviously understanding that it's very complicated and very difficult?
Yeah, I would just say is if it's possible, because I don't know, what is possible in the learning and the actual curriculum, but I would say maybe adapting the curriculum a little bit to make a more conscious effort to incorporate um, how people perceive and talk to people that are different. So maybe there could be a topic about that, and that could be a project. So it's not something that I feel should be directly targeting that person. I feel like it should be almost like it was going to happen regardless and
Mhm.
subtly integrated into the curriculum so that it is seen as a part of the learning that the students are understanding about people that are different, how they're perceived. So, yeah, I think it could be a topic, it could be a group project, and
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. Yeah, it can be quite um, isolating or just daunting if you knew there was about to be a big assembly that was essentially all about you. That's bringing
yeah.
attention that you don't particularly want. So as you say, yeah, if you
Hmm.
can just sort of generally normalize visible difference, which I think is starting to happen. We're starting to see more and more of it, which is good. In the media, and there's some more and more campaigns, and so hopefully we'll get to the stage, yeah, where it's just a bit more normalized for sure. I always try and ask. I think that I know this is incredibly personal, but I think unfortunately, for whatever reason, the harsh examples are the things which uh, potentially move the needle, and it's I always use this example whether it was my friend Oliver being asked to leave a restaurant because he was told that he was scaring the customers, or
Oh, jeez.
um, yeah, or my friend Dan who was told openly at a job fair, you look like a thug, we couldn't employ you here. I think those examples often are the things that can kind of punch through and really make people realize just how deep discrimination can go, I guess. And some people have um, much better experiences than others. And I've even talked to people who said they've never really had any very significant moments, fortunately. So would you be comfortable sharing any moments that have been particularly difficult for you?
Sure, sure. So the one moment that kind of stands out, and it's something that really more I understood in hindsight, was when I was in second grade. I was playing Truth or Dare in the lunchroom with someone, and I said dare. I didn't in my head. I was like, I'm probably not going to do it, but I'm just going to say it anyways because I'm curious what the dare is going to be. And the girl said to stand at the top of the slide in the playground and scream at the top of my lungs, "I'm beautiful." So it was a pretty elaborate dare. Of course, I didn't want to do it, and I ended up reporting it, not really understanding the gravity of what that dare meant. And so I didn't have to do the dare or anything like that. It didn't happen. Um, but it's only as I grew older that I realized she was asking me to do that as a dare because she was aware of my appearance and thought that would be a way to humiliate me. And this is a second grader.
Hmm.
So, while that was not necessarily a defining like moment, it was definitely the one of the things that stood out for me when I was younger, just because it just shows again the kind of subtle cruelty that people have, and whether I can say this or not, sometimes particularly women. I've noticed that in my own family.
Hmm.
Um, and it just I mean, again, it depends on the situation. This is a little girl, and maybe she just had a kind of upbringing that allowed for that. I have no idea,
Mhm.
but yeah, it was just it's just a moment I remember from my past that said, even at that age, that was a dig at me. But I fortunately have grown up in an environment where my parents have always told me I'm beautiful. So they've always supported me and loved me.
Mhm.
Um, and I just, once I was out of school, things didn't happen. And again, that good and bad because things
Mhm.
didn't happen, but I also didn't make any connections and basically felt isolated. So,
Mhm. That's a lot of malice from someone so young, that's quite shocking to hear that someone, yeah, that young would be so malicious. But unfortunately, it is so common. I think it's interesting you say about that you find it more difficult around girls. I do, and obviously I've got to be even more careful what I say here, but I still feel like, speaking very, very generally, um, I feel like the bullying from boys in school is a lot more physical often, whereas the bullying from girls is kind of a lot
gotcha.
more psychological and like kind of trying to tear down your social standing. And in terms of any issues that you've experienced when you're older, do you notice those sort of gender divides even now?
Yeah, I just always seem to get along better with boys.
Okay.
I think, I think, and this is if you identify as a gender and you're seen as that gender by other people, um, peop for some reason it's very difficult when you are the same gender as other people because I guess it's a competition of some sort. I wasn't competing with other boys, so maybe perhaps they accepted me. I mean, the
Hmm.
nicest thing I remember from school was I couldn't find a seat in the lunchroom. And this, by the way, I just wanted to put this out there. This was actually a private Christian school. This is not a public school. This was a private Christian school. Um, and so one of the boys, when I was looking for a seat, he ended up allowing me to sit right next to him at the voice table and doing that. And it was just such a sweet gesture that none of the girls ever did. And it was just nice that he was okay with me sitting at the voice table and they didn't have a problem with it. So
Hmm.
I do see that gender divide. I see it in my own family. My mom's side of the family, she has some sisters, and it's they're not very they're not good to each other. They're not good to each other. My mom's tried really hard, and they're not good to each other. My dad, um, he's not really that close to the siblings in general. He's never really has been, but yeah, I just get along better with boys, and whether that is because I'm a girl, or I don't know. I don't know, but I don't think I've noticed that girls don't seem to respond that well to me, but I try, we all try.
Mm. Something else that, again, speaking very generally, that makes it more difficult for women with a visible difference is that unfortunately society, I think, places more value on beauty for women than it does men. I would say still, it's still important for for a man to be handsome, but I do think that women are based a lot more on their worth by their looks, and so yeah, I do think that must make things even more difficult. Um, so how was it once you went through school, you were were homeschooled, and then when you went back into the working world, you then had to kind of, I imagine, be very sociable again. Was that quite a shock to the system, or what was that transition like?
Well, once I was homeschooled through 12th grade, and then I went to college. And then
Okay.
college, honestly, I was waiting for it because I was excited to talk to people and stuff and be in the environment again. But again, no connections, and got through college, and that was it. It basically just kind of happened. So I really just have not, had really strong connections with a lot of people, and I think we live in a world that's very different. Like men and women, non-binary people,
Hmm.
transgender people. All of them are special and great. But I
Hmm.
think it's just we don't know the best ways to communicate with each other that show what we need, what we want, and that respect
Mhm.
other people's needs and wants at the same time. So,
Would you say that's why you kind of started to get into gaming? Was that partly why, to build connection or a bit of escapism potentially?
actually, no. Well, I think it was escapism, probably. Yeah, I was
Mhm,
when I was little, and then I didn't have anybody or anything really going on. I got kind of bored, and I picked up an old Pokemon game, and I got into Pokemon, and it was more out of just a sense of ongoing boredom with life and with being kind of just not connecting with people, and so that's where it came from. It was just boredom.
mhm. My little brother, he's like, it's funny because I grew up with Pokemon, obviously, and used to go into school with the trading cards and stuff like that. And that Sam now is Pokemon Go. Everything's Pokemon Go. He's just constantly like his head is down permanently on his phone. He's going
Yeah.
to like he goes to like different events and stuff like that. And to be fair, so Sam has autism, and so he struggles with connection quite a lot, particularly in-person connection. And that community has been fantastic for him. People are so friendly and accepting, and yeah, it's just genuinely really lovely to him. So that's been a real positive. I think gaming has got some real positives to it that people are fortunately, have been realizing kind of recently and a little bit further back, I would suppose. Like for a long time, it was kind of just looked down upon a little bit, but I think people are starting to see the real world benefits of gaming. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I as somebody that is both a coach and an educator, like I really want to bring gamification and gamified elements into what I do, and it's kind of an ongoing thing for me. Um, I feel like I enjoyed learning through gaming, so I want to teach through gaming as well and have people have that experience, whether it just be, you know, choosing something or playing Jeopardy or, whatever the case may be, having
Mhm,
some way of presenting that people have fun with and, learn in an engaging environment. I think we do that
mhm,
for kids and forget that we need to do that for adults as well.
mhm,
Um, so yeah, I think that, gaming, the importance of gaming really comes from the perception of seeing it as another tool that we can use to help people, not
mhm,
just a form of escapism.
mhm. Okay, interesting. Yeah, interesting. Would you say that your visible difference has had an effect on your working life so far, whether that's positive or negative?
Yeah, not necessarily negative in the sense that I haven't gotten any work because of it or that I know of, but it's influenced, the things that it's influenced my writing, it's influenced my way of thinking about the world. Um, and I feel like I am more understanding and more accepting of people now that are different because I've understood what I've had to go through. And so I've literally told myself, or at least learned to understand that people that would scare me as a kid, I don't want to allow them to do that to me now just because they look different. So I choose to not be bothered by it, and it's a choice.
Mhm,
Because it's almost sort of going against something almost primal to see something different and odd
mhm,
and not react in a shocked way. So it's a choice to look at that person and not see them as odd or weird or strange.
mhm.
And then appreciate that because nobody else is going to look like that person either. So,
Is there anything that you would tell younger Jade that, when she, say, up to the age of maybe a teenager, or maybe even when you were younger, was there anything that you would want to say to younger Jade?
yes, the only issue I have with a question like this is that anything I say now is not going to resonate in a mind that hasn't fully developed yet. But what I would say is that, you know, you don't have to be positive just because people tell you to be positive. Whatever you're feeling, whether you're angry or you're sad or you're frustrated or you're bored or you're tired, choose to feel it and choose to validate it. That's what you're feeling. You don't have to feel what anybody else tells you to feel or think I'm wrong all the time. So I had trouble with a lot of invalidation growing up. So I would have just wanted to know how to feel valid in a way that wasn't destructive and narcissistic. And I don't think I would have understood that even if I told myself that. But that's what I
Mhm.
would have wanted.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I think that yeah, this idea of just it's almost toxic positivity, isn't it? Sometimes they just say like you just need to be positive all the time, and but there's times when it can be too much, and there are times when you need to take a break. My friend Abigail, she's a campaigner for Changing Faces, and she talks about taking a mopey day. If you're really suffering, take the day and be kind to yourself, and you don't have to just keep marching forward, which I think too many of us struggle with, is that we just try and keep plowing forward rather than just listening to our feelings and validating them, I suppose.
I internalized that I had to think differently.
Mm,
Basically, it was not I was wrong for feeling this particular emotion and attaching it to this situation and continuing to attach it. So it would
mhm,
stay that way. It would grow and it would fester because I didn't have a way to release it that felt genuine to me. So I basically, in my own way, rebelled against positivity because I was inherently a pessimistic person. So it didn't feel natural to me to choose to look things positively when that didn't resonate with my perspective of it. And so because of that, I ultimately felt invalidated and it just got worse. So yeah,
mhm,
I see what you're saying about having a day and feeling that way. And sometimes you just don't have that person in your life that allows you to feel that way and you don't know how to give yourself that. So
mhm, mhm. Yeah, totally. And I think that our society really sort of rewards those kind of people, and that can make it even harder. Is that I feel like those bubbly, extroverted, super positive people tend to do very well, I guess, because that's kind of seen as quite magnetic and quite warm, and yeah, people warm to that, and so that can make you feel, as you say, like you're wrong if you ever can't be positive and you can't be high energy and you can't do what these people do. But yeah, we're all different and we all have different strengths, and we don't have to just model ourselves on what you're supposed to do, because that inauthenticity is exhausting, and we can all do it for a while, and there's all areas of life that we have to do it sometimes. But yeah, as you say, it's definitely not a good thing. One of the main things about one of the main things that people with visible differences struggle with is stares and unwanted comments. It's something I still really struggle with, to be honest with you. Um, it's my biggest insecurity, and unfortunately, it's all over my body. And I feel almost as if there's a knife hanging over me all the time, and that everyone in the world has the button that they can press and drop that knife, if that makes sense. And so everyone has this kind of power over me, and that
wow.
makes me feel very vulnerable.
Wow.
And I don't, and I wish they didn't have that power, but I'm unfortunately still at the place in my life where they do, to be honest. And it's helped me to step into advocacy, in that I see it more as my job. And so if someone says something, I kind of try and think, right, okay, get to work, educate this person. Don't just because I used to either I would go one of two ways. I would explode, which is not healthy and not productive and not a good way to deal with it. You're not going to change hearts and minds by completely losing your mind. I would go the other way, which was the more normal way, where I would just want to get out of that situation as soon as possible. And so I would do everything I could to just run away, and then that person is going to do the same thing to the next person. So that's something I'm working on, basically. So how do you handle that situation?
To be honest, I don't have that anymore. I may have had that when I was little. I may have had somebody I think there was a kid that looked at me and screamed or cried, but I really didn't remember it because it was just like again, once I was homeschooled, I wasn't around kids very much, so I didn't have those experiences. To be honest, I feel the exact opposite. I'm just completely ignored. I don't feel beautiful. I don't feel like I'm interesting that people want to look at. And as somebody that is, I love attention, that is really frustrating for me. So um I kind of just have to accept that, I'm just going to kind of walk through life and nobody's going to look at me as, and be completely invisible. And, your situation is probably worse because you're so highly aware of it. You're so highly aware of the negativity surrounding you that you can't enjoy people's presence. Um, and I'm sure you probably at times would like to just be invisible. But from my perspective, I know what that's like, and it's uneventful and just yeah, it's kind of nothing. So
That's interesting. Now we're on both sides of the spectrum in that sense. So do you still feel quite isolated even today? Do
oh
you
yeah,
do you struggle with connection? Do you? Okay.
oh yeah, particularly
Mhm.
here where I live, things
Mhm.
that I believe and that are at odds with certain people here, so
Mhm.
it makes it difficult to make connections.
Mhm. So it's frustrating, isn't it, in this day and age where, in kind of a sense, it couldn't, in some sense, logistically, it couldn't be easier to make connection, but in a weird way, that kind of makes it even harder to make connection. It's difficult. Do you have like patient organisations over in America where you can potentially meet other people with visible differences?
Oh man, if we do, I'm not really aware of it.
No.
Um,
Okay.
oh, that's interesting.
Okay. Because we have one over here called Changing Faces, and
Yes.
there's a
Yeah, I've
big
heard of
group.
that. I've heard of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if we do, I'm not aware of it.
Mhm.
When I was there is the Vascular Birthmark Foundation,
Mhm.
which is like kind of I was actually in a book that they did years ago, and so that's like a really good charity, like for
Mhm.
people with birthmarks. But as far as like a that, I don't know about that. It seems like
Mhm.
the UK has some really good programs. Like you also have Calm.
Okay.
Have you heard of Calm?
Is it
Um,
the app, so like the meditation and mindfulness thing?
No, no,
No.
it's the
No. Okay.
campaign against living miserably, and it's for people
Okay.
that deal with depression and
Mhm.
different. And I just thought, wow, I've never heard of that like here, like, and
Mhm.
I thought that was really cool. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm. Do you struggle with your mental health then, would you say? Due to that really okay in terms of as far as depression, would you say?
every day, yeah, I
Okay.
take medication
Really?
for it every
Okay.
day, every single day.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. And do you think that is kind of exclusively due to the effects of your visible difference, do you think? No.
No.
Okay. Mhm.
I've been pessimistic for many years, and partly that is due to that. Um, but I was kind of always at odds with my mom in a lot of ways, and I think that that relationship contributed to it as well. So no, I don't want to specifically say that because, honestly, I had most of my surgeries when I was younger. So, while I still looked different for a while, it still was not as, obvious as here in this picture.
Mhm.
Um, and I definitely think there was a lot of factors involved with this, and particularly with my family and the fact that our family was just not, um, our family just did not have a lot of, my mom's side of the family just did not have a lot of great people in
Mhm.
it that were,
Mhm.
you know, just not
Yeah.
respectful.
Mhm. Towards you personally or just generally?
My mom.
Okay. Okay. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that's incredibly difficult. There's kind of I've noticed, sort of generally speaking, is that people with visible differences tend to kind of luck out and get really strong support networks, which is such a lifeline when, the world's giving you such a hard time. And I've always thought people that have to, live with a visible difference and also they don't have that strong support network, that must be incredibly difficult. That must be
Yes.
really hard.
Yes, I did not have that kind of support network. I had my parents, and that's more than a lot of people have.
Mhm.
But there was a lot of issues that I've had to work out with them as well. So when the only people you have are also the people that are really making things worse in a lot of ways too, and then you don't necessarily know how to respond, so you end up being worse because of it.
Mhm.
It was very difficult for many years, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's definitely made me a lot harder and a lot Like I'm not gonna waste my time with a lot of people now. Like it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't, I have more patience than I used to, but I also will not settle either.
Mhm. Yeah, I know the feeling. I do know the feeling. I kind of I got into a situation where if someone said kind of I would just cut people out way too easily, and I've kind of realised that's not healthy and not sustainable. And we're all flawed. Um, but I think when you feel that lack of control so much, it can be hard to not sort of forget how you felt when you were younger. So yeah, it's definitely something I'm working on for sure. What's something you wish that people understood about your condition and maybe the effects that it can have?
I wouldn't say, treat people differently because of it, whether positively or negatively, obviously. I think we just kind of need to recognize there are primal adversity to people that look different. Recognize it, become consciously aware of it, and learn to neutralize it. That's really all it is, because that's what I felt, and I I needed to understand that about myself and about others. That you know I look at my face. I think we need to. One thing I wanted to mention too is that you don't have to think of yourself as beautiful as long as you can learn to appreciate what you have. It's not about choosing to see yourself as beautiful. You can try that, but you have to neutralize your own feelings first and learn to just kind of be at peace with where you are before you can move into a phase of I'm actually beautiful. So I would want people to know that. Be aware of your own, your own animosity or your own anger towards people that look different. Neutralize it and just, come to a place where you can appreciate that somebody is actually different.
Hmm.
And swap it from, oh, they're ugly or they're odd because they don't look like this. They don't have these kind of facial features or body, whatever structure, and
Hmm.
see it as that is interesting.
Hmm.
It's almost like what Tim Burton does. I love Tim Burton. I've always grown up with his movies. He loves the people that are weird and different. The guy with the scissors for hands,
Hmm.
the weird vampires and creatures. And so it's about recognizing that there is beauty in oddity and understanding what that beauty means to you after you've come to
Hmm.
appreciate it.
Hmm. No, that's very good advice. I think that people will often say things like that, but not truly live by it, if that makes sense. They say,
Yeah.
be an individual and
Yeah.
we're not all the same. But then when it comes down to it, their actions say the complete opposite. So yeah, I totally agree that we want to start living in a world with a bit more, or just a lot more acceptance to people who aren't normal, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a choice to look at how you're viewing this person and come to a place where you can be at peace with this person being there. You don't have to love this person. You don't even have to
Hmm.
find them beautiful if you don't want to. It's just recognizing that you are going to be averse to them, and
Hmm.
it's being aware of that and coming to terms with that first, you know?
Hmm. Going back to your surgery, so I remember you mentioned that you had 11. Was it 11 surgeries? Is that right?
Yeah.
Do you remember that period? Was that over a short period of time, or was they kind of like gradual throughout your childhood?
Most of it was in, probably within the first 10 years of my life. And then the last surgery I had was like when I was 15. Um, and it was honestly, except for maybe the last one, best time of my life. I loved it.
Hmm.
My mom knew that this is kind of a scary thing, and she made it into an adventure. So basically, um, I would have my surgeries at the Arkansas Children's Hospital when I was little, and she would make it a vacation to Arkansas. And so like, the doctors were really nice. Dr. Milton Weiner is an amazing doctor. And they were wonderful people. They made me feel comfortable. My mom, after surgery, I'd be ready to go for McDonald's. So we'd get McDonald's or whatever afterwards at some point. And It was a vacation. And so for
Hmm.
me, I have a higher comfort level in hospitals than most people do because those early experiences were so positive.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so many people are the complete opposite, aren't they? Yeah, it's amazing just how much that imprints on you, isn't it, when you're in those young years, if you can make something positive.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a little bit of the problem with like you've got the rise of these Instagrammers, right, who want to try and heal everything with like all sorts of craziness, and I think part of it is because they can make that, whether it's like fruit juices or whatever, they can make it all beautiful and Instagrammable and lovely. But hospitals are the complete opposite, aren't they? They're cold and they're clinical and they're for a lot of people quite daunting and intimidating. And so I think that's a little bit part of the reason why people are kind of too many people, I think, are starting to go down the alternative sort of medicine route. Do you have anything in because in my area of skin conditions, there is so many people out there trying to basically steal your money and offer you all sorts of stuff. Is there anything similar with your condition and something you could advise people to avoid?
Oh, man, if so, I'm not aware of it.
Okay, that's good.
I don't do that for my face. This is all natural after 11 surgeries, basically. Yeah, but that's really what it is. I don't take anything.
Okay, perfect. So do you have any kind of physical discomfort or anything like that, or are you okay?
No.
Perfect.
No, it's like it's not even there, really, but I know that, when I feel my nose, because in my last surgery, I'd gotten a tip on my nose. It was originally flat, because of the way that the birthmark expanded it. So I got a tip on my nose, and it's almost weird
Mhm.
feeling that.
Okay.
Sometimes, it's harder to breathe a little bit out of here because, that one nostril's smaller.
Mhm.
Um, so I have little things that bother me when if hairs grow here and I pluck them, it's very sensitive and painful because I have a scar right here. So I have got little things related that
Mhm.
make it a little difficult, but they're pretty mundane in terms of things.
Mhm.
Nothing really painful or anything. Just some kind of minor frustrations.
Okay, that's good. You're very positive about your condition itself. It seems, yeah. Well, I guess this is the way it always goes, isn't it? Is that it's the mental health issues which are more difficult. And as you say, I'm sure you said that it certainly isn't all down to your visible difference, but I'm sure it had some impacts for
Oh,
sure.
sure.
It does seem to be the way that most people's conditions, the physical symptoms aren't really the thing. That's the difficult part, is it? It's the mental side, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 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 and that's what I think is the frustration when people kind of just boil it down to the physical symptom. So, like for example, I was speaking to a girl I know called Molly who has alopecia, and people would say, "Oh, it's just hair." It's like, yeah, but it's not just hair. That's not really the issue here.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the mental health effects
Mm-hmm.
that go along with that. That's
It's
really
what the
difficult.
knowledge that that's there does to that person and the way they're
Mm,
perceived. Yeah.
mm. You remind me a little bit of my friend Dan as well, who he was the guy I was talking about with who was denied job roles, and he was a junior tennis champion, so he was kind of top 50 in the world, 14, 15, 16-year-old, and he would go to these competitions and have people leaning over the fences and screaming at him about how they're going to slash the other side of his face and all that kind of stuff. And I said to him, like, do you think that affected your tennis career? And he was like, no, no, I don't think so. It's like, I don't know. I think that might have had a little bit of an effect.
Oh no, I'm well aware that it's influenced so much of my life. I just
Mhm.
recognize that there are other things that contributed
Mm,
as well.
mm,
And it's hard to know I know that this affected me a lot in terms of my connections with people. And then that lack of connection contributed to just my own mental health. But growing up,
mm,
if it hadn't been for other kids, I didn't know anything was different about myself. It's just
mhm,
other kids' perception of me that changed me. So I think that I know that my own perception of people that are different is stemmed from my experience.
mhm,
Um, So it's just like I said, it's just a variety of different factors that may have been the first little ball, and then
Mhm.
there were other things that were contributing to that ball growing ever larger, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah. Yeah, it seems to have so much like more of a deeper effect when it's early, doesn't it? I was the same in that I like before kids started making me feel conscious and different, I had no, and I think that's everyone's experience. They had no idea they were different. They had no idea that, yeah, there was anything different about them. And I don't know, speaking for myself, like, when I was really young, I was super confident and you just kind of get it ground out of you, unfortunately.
exactly. Went right up to kids and say, "Hey, do you want to play?" And no.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
"Hey, do you want to play?" No. Okay, you don't
Mm,
want to play, I guess.
yeah, by the 10th one, it starts to sink in a little bit for sure. Yeah, yeah. I'm so sorry to hear that you struggle with your mental health. That must be super tough. Do you have kind of peaks and troughs of that, or is it always quite difficult?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a little bit difficult. There are certain days that are going to be harder than others.
Hmm.
Trying to be successful in what I do has made it harder because, I'm scared about being able to make enough money to support myself. I've never been financially independent, so being able to do that is really difficult, and that's contributed a lot to my mental health recently. Um, but yeah, it's an ongoing battle all the time.
Hmm. I appreciate you saying that. I think it's important for people to hear that. I think there's a lot of people going through the same thing, and it helps to feel a little bit less isolating, I suppose, when you hear that other people are dealing with it too. You kind of look around, and it seems like everyone's got everything together all the time, doesn't it? And I think it's important for people to hear that there's people struggling as well. I'm the same, I there's been periods in my life where I've been suicidal, frankly, and I have kind of quite deep anxiety, which I still feel embarrassed to say, for which I take medication for, and which I fought for a long time because I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want another thing wrong with me, but I think it's definitely helped me for sure. And I think something that I've also noticed is that a lot of people with visible differences, I guess I think due to that same thing of people telling them, oh, it's just a scar, it's just a rash, whatever, is they then don't reach out for help and they don't get the help that they need from a mental health perspective, and that's pretty dangerous, isn't it? I know a girl called Ellie, who she suffers quite deep with mental health issues, and she burnt her own face, and she believed for a long time that because it was self-inflicted, she wasn't kind of worthy of any help. And it was a really big turning point in her life when she did finally reach out for help. And when she did, she was, you know, welcomed in with open arms. Um, so yeah, I mean, what do you do for your mental health to help cope with it?
Meditation and medication primarily.
Hmm. Hmm.
To just or whether even if it's not just a literal just sitting there and doing this, if it's just choosing to be aware. And I kind of have a thing where I've learned how to move through my thoughts really well. I detach the fear from it. I cycle through it. I accept it, and I learn to integrate it as part of my view of what I'm doing. So I do kind of have a process I do. It's still not really enough when your life doesn't feel satisfying in the way that you had hoped. But it's something, because ultimately sometimes we have to do it alone sometimes. Not because other people haven't tried, but ultimately, we're born, unless you're conjoined, you're born as one person. And basically, at the end of the day, you are going to have to face yourself, and nobody can face yourself but you. So I've had to face those challenges mentally, do whatever kind of mental, whatever kind of things I need to do, strategies I need to do to help myself.
Hmm.
So I really see the how much I needed to become self-reliant. That's what's really important. I still am not, because I don't live on my own, but mentally I've become much more capable.
Hmm. Okay, so you mentioned about you feel like life is potentially unsatisfying. What would you need for life to feel satisfying, do you think?
Well, having a sense of consistent income doing what I love would help. My family and I are hoping to move. I've never been happy in Tennessee, so we're hoping to move. Um, but and I just always wanted to go back to when I was a kid. I don't really feel excited about the future, so I just want to go back to being a kid.
Well, good for you for chasing down a career in what you love, because a lot of people, they don't even have the bravery to do that, frankly. They will just stick out the usual 9 to 5, and that works for some people, and that's obviously fine. But a lot of people will just do that, and they kind of just sort of give up on their dreams and their goals. So, but unfortunately, yeah, the price you pay for that is a lot of instability and a lot of rockiness along the road.
I live at home. I have parents that are allowing me to do this, but I wouldn't recommend it if you didn't have a place to stay. So I really totally like, unless you've got a place, like I wouldn't. You can do a little bit, but I wouldn't recommend pursuing it. I'm just very fortunate that my parents are allowing me to do this.
hmm hmm So, like, plug yourself and what you do then. If what is it that your company does, and what service is it that you provide to people?
Sure. So, I am a language and mindset coach, and I help people in the gaming industry improve their job seeking skills, whether it be interview skills, what they write on their resume in their about section, and I help them find the joy in the process. Because honestly, the gaming industry is really suffering these days. A lot of layoffs. I follow that on LinkedIn. A lot of people being laid off due to AI, and or restructuring of some sort. And so I'm here to help people deal with the mental challenges that come with that, as well as the language issues, not just as a non-native speaker, but just not really understanding how language on your LinkedIn profile and on your cover letter can make the difference between people perceiving you as somebody that's just another person that's done stuff and somebody that is actually a good match for our company.
hmm Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Yeah. I'm surprised to hear that about the gaming industry struggling. You just feel like everyone plays
Major,
games nowadays, and they get more and more expensive. That's crazy to hear. So it's just
major.
AI, is it? Okay.
Partly, yeah. Many studio closures, many layoffs. I mean, it's constant. It is a really, really bad situation right now, and
hmm
I do think a lot of it probably has to do with AI. But yeah, it's a terrible situation, and so you have people that are unable to get in, or you have people that have been in for many years and are now just being laid off, and they never really had to deal with improving their LinkedIn profile or doing these kind of things on social media. So I'm there to give them some help and some guidance when they're struggling.
hmm Yeah, awesome. Um, just to finish off, and thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Thank you, because you reached out to me. That was really kind of you, and you reached out really early, when I'd just done it, and everything felt really super daunting. And it still does a little bit today, but it was more daunting back then. So I really appreciate that. Thank you, and it's been really great to talk to you. And thank you so much for being so open and honest. Is there something that you are hopeful for in the future?
Um, I'm hopeful. I want to hope. It's even hard to hope, honestly, at this point, but I want to hope that there will be more respect and acceptance of people, regardless of how they look. And yeah, I just want people to be more at peace with each other, more neutrality.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And if you ever feel the pull to step into advocacy at all, we'd love to have you. And there's a lovely community here, that are all so nice to each other and supportive. And every voice is super important to try and move things forward. But honestly, thank you so much for your time. It's been great to chat to you. I really appreciate it.
It's been wonderful. Thank you so much, Andy.